Welcome to The Sideshow.
Welcome to another edition of The Sideshow. And today we're going to be having a great conversation about a great album. Mike, why don't you're taking charge on this one. Why don't you let everybody know what we're going to be talking about today?
Thanks, Mark. Today we're going to be talking about what I believe is one of, the great classic rock albums of the later classic rock era, but nevertheless, we're going to be talking about side one of the Pretenders' Learning to Crawl album.
Great one.
And
Great one.
This album came out in January of 1984, which is, you're starting to get to the, moving into the MTV era at that point. But the Pretenders had established themselves a little earlier. Their first album, just called The Pretenders, had come out in 1980, and it was caught a lot of people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
The song "Brass in Pocket" was a hit that kind of crossed a lot of genre lines. I mean, it was like a pop song on the radio. AM radio was playing
Mm-hmm.
it, but it also had a little bit of an edge, and AOR stations were playing it, and it was also had connection to the burgeoning new wave movement, for lack of a better way of putting it, that kind of came out of the punk rock music of the late 70s. And so, I mean, and that album put them on the map. I mean, their first album, made a splash that caught a lot of people's attention. Basically the leader of the Pretenders, the lead vocalist and rhythm guitarist, Chrissie Hynde, backed by an all-male, or the other members of the Pretenders were all men, but she was the I don't think there's any controversy in designating her as the leader of the Pretenders.
Absolutely not.
But they were, it's not like they were particularly unique. There've been a number of bands with a kind of a female figurehead, or a female artist with a backing band, whether you're talking about Joan Jett or Pat Benatar,
or
what
even
have you.
Blondie, which kind of came just a tad before this, this music. So yeah, it wasn't unheard of.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, Chrissie Hynde, I think, was able to blend the aspects of a male rocker, a male band leader, with feminine qualities, and we're able to mingle those two things very effectively without forsaking the other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sort of like rock and roller, like the rock and roll equivalent of unisex almost.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a kind of a ham-fisted label. But in any event, I find Chrissie Hynde to be a very authentic, compelling, bred to the bone rocker, a rock and roller of the truest sort, and where she actually kind of came about as an artist was in London, where she moved. She is originally from Akron, Ohio. Mm-hmm. She's American, grew up in Akron, Ohio, went to college at Kent State, was at Kent State at the time of the Kent State shootings in 1970.
Yeah.
And she was a rock and roller, at least in attitude, if not in occupation. Mm-hmm. At that time, and ended up going to England. And I don't recall the exact year, but it was in the mid 70s, 73, 74, 75.
Yeah, 73 I think is when she actually moved, and she would have been like 22 or something like that at the time.
And so in any case, she moved to England, and she was hanging around with a lot of the people that were involved in the very early, sort of London punk scene.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm McLaren, members of the Sex Pistols,
Yeah.
like the members of the Clash. She knew
Mm-hmm.
those guys,
Yeah.
um, and um, urban legend is that she taught Sid Vicious how to play his instrument. Yeah,
Interesting thing about that. That shows it's probably good that she did not choose to become a music instructor because I don't know how successful she was at teaching
well,
Sid Vicious how to play
but
the guitar.
but
But
the I mean
yes,
I guess
she was in that. She was in that scene, right?
the the
Absolutely.
the point being is that she was, some would say, is she was in the right place at the right time
Mm-hmm.
for purposes of kind of finding her path to being a member of a successful band.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of, I mean, she certainly was in a place at a time where there was fertile soil for meeting other people, making connections, and finding some sparks to advance, forming bands and making music and just moving towards the rock and roll life.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, and I think that the Pretenders, when they started, was, if you get on the internet, and you get on the Wikipedia page, for example, they're going to identify the Pretenders as a British band.
Yeah.
British rock band is what it'll say. And the other members of the original band on their first album was Chrissie Hynde. James Honeymoon Scott was a guitar player. Chrissie Hynde also played, I think, primarily rhythm guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Chambers was the drummer, and Pete Farndon was the name of the
Mm-hmm.
bass player, and all of them English, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's and they did some things before their first album, just called The Pretenders, was released. One of which they cut a single of the Kinks song "Stop Your Sobbing." Chrissie Hynde, at one point in time, I don't know the exact timing, but she was in a relationship with Ray Davies
Mm-hmm.
of the Kinks, and so that was I think that is what kind of sparked that particular song selection.
Mm-hmm.
But that single was cut or recorded before Martin Chambers became the permanent drummer for the
Mm-hmm.
Pretenders. And I don't recall off the top of my head the name of that drummer, but was, before they started their actual recording career in earnest, Martin Chambers took over as the drummer, and that recording session was produced by a man named Kurt Lowe. Is it an English
I think it was Nick Lowe.
Nick Lowe, not
Nick
Kurt.
Lowe.
Nick
Yeah.
Lowe.
Yeah.
Nick Lowe. I'm sorry. Nick Lowe, and he was a relatively known English musician. He played in, I believe he was a member of the band Brinsley Schwartz, and he may have been a member of Rockpile, which was a band which also included Dave Edmunds, another British rock and roller from those days, and he was the producer. And so there, I mean, there was all these connections that Chrissie Hynde had been able to make that really, and we talk about this in the podcast. But you were going to say?
Well, I think it's important to note, there's a lot of people that kind of, okay, I'm going to move to London and end up hanging out with these people. I mean, she wasn't just a groupie. I mean, she was actually, working as a musician, at different capacities. And there was, some kind of acts and projects that she did on the side that included some of the members of some of these bands. I mean, she performed in some of the songs, kind of, I guess you'd say, as a studio musician for some of these acts, and even performed live in different capacities. And I think though she never really got traction, or I guess she'd look back at it and say she never really got a whole lot of respect from that crowd. She couldn't really springboard off of that work and those things into something of her own. And I think that's why when she did, she was in charge, I believe, of this project, which became The Pretenders. And I think that she exercised her authority pretty brutally in some cases. There was a lot of member changes in this band over the years. Some of them I'm sure we'll talk about were difficult situations, but others were just you're not cutting it anymore, or you don't sound the way I want you to sound anymore. And she'd give them the boot, especially as we get into some of their later years, a little after the album that we're talking about here. So I think that experience kind of laid kind of a foundation of how she was going to conduct herself, leading a band in the future. Really interesting and educational years, but it provided those connections that were going to become really critical for her success going forward.
Well, and that's a good point that you make, because the fact that she was effective on her own behalf, kind of in making these connections, the reason she was successful wasn't because she was a good schmoozer. It was because she knew what she wanted and was willing to work
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
And part of that process was knowing, how do I get in touch with other musicians? How do I figure out the right combination of other band members to kind
Yeah.
of find that equilibrium where we can play together. Here's a group of people who can kind of get on the same wavelength and keep a rhythm and rock and roll in a meaningful way. It doesn't take much to get, 3 or 4 people together and start banging out Louie Louie in
Yeah.
the garage.
Yeah.
I mean, that can be done. And if you got a group of people who are just sitting around drinking beer listening to it, it's great,
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you're talking about being a successful recording artist, of at the level or anywhere near the level where that the Pretenders were able to achieve really with their first album, it takes something a little more than that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I believe that Chrissie Hynde, just all by herself, had that thing. I think on the one hand, I think that Chrissie Hynde is one of the sexiest performers, female performers in all of rock. But she wasn't, she didn't show skin. She didn't. She could be kind of sexy, and she wasn't afraid of entendres and innuendos and whatnot. But she didn't flaunt herself. On the cover of the first album, their debut album, she's wearing a red leather jacket, and she has kind of a like "don't fuck with me" look on her face on the cover of that album. And before we're done, in a little bit here, I've we can look at the cover of this album that we're going to be talking about. But she wasn't showing skin. That wasn't her thing.
Yeah.
And so she had the music in her, and she had rock and roll in her, and was able to turn it into something that, in my humble opinion, was a very potent rock and roll force.
Yeah, I'd agree, and certainly had some early success. I mean, the Pretenders' debut album. I mean, it's on, it's on every single top, top album list, and on the very top of great debut album lists as far as the success, both critically and commercially, that the album had. She absolutely had kind of the attitude and just the vocal presence, along with the ability to run and drive a band, the songwriting, and all the other stuff about the music business that we frequently talk about. So yeah, she absolutely had whatever that is. And not everybody that has it makes their way, into the public domain, but she definitely deserved it when she got there.
Yeah. And and I mentioned she was able to combine sort of different elements into one whole. We talk about the first album. The big hit was Brass in Pocket,
Mm-hmm.
and in that song she sings "I'm Special." But in the context is that she wants her lover to know and acknowledge that, and to
Mm-hmm.
give her his attention.
Yeah.
It's more of a plea. Whereas the opening track on the debut album, Precious,
Mm-hmm.
and in that song, she's saying, "Yeah, I'm special. You better fucking believe it. And if not, fuck off." I mean, and that is literally what she says in
Yeah.
that song.
Yeah.
And you and I were talking one time about when we were sitting around with a book of rock lists,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the lists in that book is Chrissie Hynde's advice to chick rockers.
Okay.
That's okay. So she, this whenever that book was written, that's what she called them, chick rockers.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not the most politically correct, label these days, but be that as it may. But it was sort of like, look, don't, your job isn't to go out there and her words were, don't try to look fuckable.
Mm-hmm.
And said, you're in a rock and roll band. It's not fuck me, it's fuck you. And so that kind of sums up, we know
where she's coming from. Yeah.
And so Chrissie Hynde at Leader of Pretenders. We've talked a fair amount about their debut album, which came out in 1980. It had the cover of "Stop Your Sobbing," which had been recorded earlier before the permanent band had been formed, but was on that album. The rest of the material was recorded by the four permanent members of the band. There was Brass in Pocket and
Mm-hmm.
Precious, which we've talked about, and a number of other songs. I mean, we don't need to go through those, but it was a very strong album. The follow up, which came in, I don't know if it came out in 1981 or 82, but it was just called Pretenders 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was like during the summer of 1981 that came out. And there were a number of what you'd call hits on that album. There was "Talk of the Town," "Message of Love," and there were some other songs that got some airplay. Those were the two most popular. Some
Mm-hmm.
of those songs had been on like an EP, an extended play record, which came out, which was like a 33 and a half, full size record, but didn't have the same, wasn't as long.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't as long, but it was an EP. But then they came out with Pretenders 2, and it was well received as far as it goes, but just didn't have the oomph
Mm-hmm.
of the first album. And it's not like the Pretenders just sort of started to kind of fade into the background at that point, but it did not have the same, it did not have the same impact as the first album. So that's in 1981. At somewhere along the line after the release of their second album, which is, like I think I said, just called Pretenders 2, apparently the bass player, Pete Farndon, was experiencing some addiction issues, was using heroin, and it got to the point where the rest of the band, they kicked him out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 3 days later, 2 days, 3 days, just a few days later, the guitar player, James Honeymoon Scott, died of a drug overdose.
Mm-hmm.
So one member of the band has been kicked out within a week.
Yeah.
One member of the band is kicked out by the other members because the drug problems are too much of a problem to deal with, and another member dies of a drug overdose.
Yeah.
So that was a substantial blow to the whole situation, and Chrissie Hynde and Martin Chambers, the drummer who from the original permanent lineup, were still together. But it was they had to pick up the pieces, figure out what they were going to do, and as time went by, they hooked up with some other musicians, including one of the former members of Rockpile, and some other, so just some other musicians, and they recorded some songs. The first of which was which ended up being on Learning to Crawl, Back on the Chain Gang, which was written by Chrissie Hynde specifically about the death of James Honeymoon Scott. They also recorded My City Was Gone, which also appeared on Learning to Crawl, and so they were recording, but the album was still had yet to kind of come together.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting. The way that they were releasing this music was a little bit different than what we typically see with bands, where you go into the studio to record an album, you get whatever the 10, 11 songs that are going to be on the album, and then the record company starts to you pick a couple of those to release as singles. That some may or may not be come out before the album actually does, but the singles help drive this. Here, they were doing it the other way around. I mean, they were releasing these singles, Back in the Chain Gang, Middle of the Road. Yeah, Back in the Chain Gang was in July of 1982 when it was released. Middle of the Road was November 1983 when it was produced. And the album, Learn to Crawl, didn't come out till January 1984. So it was almost like backwards, where as they were recording stuff, they were releasing them as singles, and then ultimately they had enough material to put into the album. So it's a little bit different kind of story than a lot of the albums that we talk about here, just in the way that they were being produced. And then finally from that, because of that time frame, you've actually got different musicians that are playing on a lot of these songs, as opposed to what the band was actually composed of when they released the album, ultimately in 1984. So just a little bit of a kind of a change up from what we sometimes hear about in album production.
Yeah, but eventually, a more kind of the Pretenders, not the Pretenders 2, but Pretenders Mach 2, was formed, and in addition to Chrissie Hynde and Martin Chambers, there was Billy Bremner, who I believe was the musician, the guitarist, who had played with or actually no wait I take that, I'm wrong. Billy Bremner played with Rockpile, but it was not Billy Bremner he played guitar on some of the earlier singles, the Back on the Chain Gang and whatnot. It was Robbie McIntosh was the name of the guitarist who became sort of the more long-term member of the sort of the second incarnation of the Pretenders, and the bass player, Robbie McIntosh replaced James Honeymoon Scott, and then Malcolm Foster was the name of the bassist who ended up becoming the permanent member of the new incarnation of the band. So when I referred to Billy Bremner, I misspoke. In any event, we've got the band together. And, the rest of the material, there's 10 songs altogether on Learning to Crawl, 5 songs on each of the 2 sides. And we're going to be talking about side 1. Before we do that, though, I do have a copy of the album. We can take a look at it here. It's It's a simple cover. It just shows the four members of the band are standing there together. You know, it has the name of the band, the title of the album, and then on the back, it's kind of a cool picture. It shows Chrissie Hynde. It doesn't show her face, but that's her and her guitar. Very simple, straightforward. Has the titles of the songs. No monkey business. Just shows the band, and and you look at that picture of Chrissie Hynde. Before I put that down, you look at her sitting there. You know, she's just to the just beyond the S on the knee.
Yeah,
and she's not flaunting her womanly charms.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of given that Chrissie Hynde look, like, hey, I can be I can be friendly just like anybody else, but keep your distance,
Yeah.
But in any case, side one starts out. The first track is "Middle of the Road," and I think this is one of the Pretenders' strongest cuts. It is just a straight up rock and roll song, but it just sort of has this sort of metallic, shimmery polish to it that combines with sort of the raggedy punk rock ethos to create a very accessible but kind of in your face rocker. And why don't we? I mean, we can play a couple of clips to give the listeners who haven't heard the song a taste of things. And we'll listen to two clips here, and it'll give a pretty good idea of what the song is all about. The first minute or so, and then there's a break where you get some interesting vocals and the beginning of a guitar solo, and we can talk more about it on the other side.
Middle of the road, he's trying to find me. I'm standing in the middle of life with my pants behind me. I got a smile for everyone I meet, as long as you don't try dragging my bag or dropping the bomb on my street. Now, come on, baby, get in the road. Come on now, in the middle of the road, yeah. Middle of the road is no private cul-de-sac. I can't get from the cab to the curb without some little jerk on my back. Don't harass me, can't you tell I'm going home? I'm tired as hell, I'm not the cat I used to be. I got a kid, I'm 33, baby. Get in the road. Come on now, in the middle of the road, yeah.
All right. I guess two things. That drumming at the beginning.
Oh yeah. I mean, just.
And then the guitar comes in, and I mean, and they are off the blocks and running. And then you know, I mean, everyone heard it. And then later on, you know, the music kind of comes down, and along with those background vocals, and ooh, I mean, and that's just, and I don't know if that's Chrissie Hynde or the guys or all of them, but that just has a real cool sound to it, and it distinguishes it from just grand funk, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, cock rock. In my opinion, it just takes it totally out of that kind of realm, but you just hear the music kind of slows down, but then going back into the verse, you know, the middle of the road, and gets back to that chorus, and then when she before she does the harmonica solo, where she does that I mean, you know that you are dealing with a wildcat.
Yeah, yeah.
In this performer, and I don't know, I just I back in the day, a good friend of mine and I lived together in Milwaukee when we were going to college back in the late '80s, and we used to have parties at our house, and people would come over, and there were times where we had kind of regular old keg parties where people that you didn't know would show up at your house to kind of be part of the whole gathering, and we're playing all this Grateful Dead and blues and stuff like that, and some woman who I didn't know said, can't you play something just a little more, just a straight up rock, something with a beat that and I thought, okay. And I pulled out this album. Yeah. I pulled out this album and put it on, and with this song, and they dug it.
Yeah,
they liked it. So people were getting into it, so I have fond memories of this song.
Yeah, and it is. I also, you are captured by the drums, right away at the beginning. I mean, it's pretty right at you. And then, as the guitar, I'd agree, this thing just rocks you right away, keeps you going. Kind of interesting if you listen to the, to the song. This is someone who is now 30 or in their 30s, as opposed to, kind of a younger rocker, kind of seeing the world a little bit and that kind of thing. She has said herself, a lot of times when you think about like the middle of the road, it's kind of, get up on the road and fight, kind of, and this sounds like, it's combative or whatever, the music. But on this, I can also see in here, you've got this notion of more of the middle path, kind of a mindfulness type thing, of balance that is necessary in life. And you can kind of hear that too, regardless of how fast moving that this song goes. And I mean, I agree with you. When she kind of tees off that harmonica solo, I don't know if that was just improvisational. It sounds like it just burst out. She was kind of trying to just make some type of, utterance or whatever that would kind of get her off of those lyrics. Whether it was planned, spontaneous or not, it's perfect for that transition into the what is also a very driving harmonica solo as well.
Well, and I described her as like a wildcat in kind of doing that little transition before the harmonica solo, but some of the things that you're saying, I think, is really kind of the thematic backdrop of this album. Is sort of, look, I mean, the circumstances have taken this, I mean, punk rocker, for lack of a better way of describing her, rock and roller, and now she's in the middle of the road, and she's in the middle of life. I'm standing in the middle of the middle of life with my plans behind me.
Yeah.
And so kind of that, it's how do you maintain authenticity as a rock and roller when you have kind of matured. I mean, and
The line that you just quoted is to me the most profound, thing within there. Your plans are behind you. And you've heard the poem about, when I was a child, I did childish things, but as you grow up, you put those childish things behind you. At what point in your life do you have to put your plans behind you, right? Your dreams from when you were younger. At some point, I've got to put those aside now too. And so that whole, here I stand with my plans behind me. It's a bummer to think about for too much time.
Well, and I was a little sloppy in reciting those initial lyrics, because the first line of the song is the middle of the road is trying to find me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm standing in the middle of life with my plans behind me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she's not so much saying, well, now I'm in the middle of the road, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
I think she's sort of just saying that the forward movement of life is I'm sort of being drawn to the middle of the road, and it's kind of a how do I deal with that? And and she, now come on, baby, get in the road. Oh, come on now, in the middle of the road. Yeah, it's so. I mean, it's and some of the lyrics on this on this album are not necessarily. I mean, and one of the reasons why they're great lyrics is because they're not necessarily susceptible to simplistic interpretation, and there's enough art. I hesitate to say poetry because I don't think that's the right word, but there's just they're artful lyrics that are obviously expressing concerns and suggesting that, look, there are, life is pressing on, and you're either gonna hang on or fall off, and because it ain't always going to be a smooth ride.
And certainly a theme that we're going to be touching on again as we move through this side.
Yeah. And so in any case, I mean, I think it's an incredibly strong opener.
Absolutely.
There was an official music video for like an MTV type music video when this song first came out, and the beginning of the video, there's some other band playing on a stage in like a music club. And they finish, and then an MC comes out and this and that, the Pretenders, and then and so that's a band on stage in a club they're playing, and then at the end of the song, like some bobbies come in, like some English police officers, and they're breaking up the crowd, and there's this
beating
raucous
up the
guitar
wrong guy
going on, that kind of thing, and it's just it's cool. I mean, and it's. They used to, like at the Skyline Bar in Appleton, back in the mid '80s, before I moved down to Milwaukee, when this song was current, and they played MTV videos, and people danced. It was a dance place.
Yeah.
And the music that they played almost always had its MTV video playing on the screen as the song was playing and people were dancing. And this was back in those days, younger days, when I would actually go out onto a dance floor and dance to fast rock and roll songs. I was always out there for this one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So and you can still find that on YouTube easily, which is worth checking out. But in any case, in my opinion, a very strong opener.
Absolutely.
Middle of the road. But moving on, the second track on side one was the first single that they recorded prior to the release of the album, called Back on the Chain Gang. And Chrissie Hynde, I mean, there's no controversy. This was written directly in response to the overdose death of former guitarist of the band of the Pretenders, James Honeymoon Scott. And it's not as much of a rocker. It's not a rocker so much as a pop song. But it's guitar oriented, and it has that Pretenders energy, I guess is I'll call it that for lack of a better way of putting it. And lyrically, it's an incredibly well written song uh, it, sort of it's a wistful, sort of fond looking back
Mm-hmm.
for a friend who left too early. And so just what she does a great job of addressing the situation in a
Mm-hmm.
way that's and appropriate is such a lousy word to use when you're talking about rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it just it she successfully did what she was apparently attempting to do, to sort of memorialize, if not eulogize, her former bandmate.
Yeah, and I mean, and I believe, first of all, yes, this when this song was put together, it's almost like this incredibly difficult incident in her life and in this band's thing, created the emphasis to get this all down in paper. I actually was looking at some subsequent interview, whatever, as a lot of musicians do, they've got these songs kind of rolling around in their head, and they really struggle to kind of get them down on paper. And there was some original concepts that she had in her head for a song that was actually about Ray Davies, but she couldn't really get it together, right? And that there wasn't enough emotion there to talk about. But this longing for someone that you're no longer with, something. Well, this incident happened with her bandmate, and suddenly it's like this is what can drive this through to completion, which it's appropriate isn't a good word to talk about rock and roll. It's also, when you're talking about the death of a friend, also a difficult word to attach to anything. But looking back at time that has passed, looking back at this time with her, with this friend of hers, with this, any members of bands are very close by definition. And the fact that, look, you can reflect back to these points in your life, but you cannot go back, right? Time will let you stop for a second to reflect, but it will not let you go back, and it eventually is going to keep going on again, and that person is always going to be gone. So I'd say yes, it's a little, the song's, it's a little lighter and airier, but it's a Pretender song. That's for sure.
And let's listen to a couple of clips before we talk about them on the other side. And this is about a minute from the beginning of the song, and then there's a sort of a bridge that kind of does kind of a nice transition back into the regular song, and then we can after those two clips we can talk about it on the other side.
All right, let's hear them.
I found a picture of you. Oh, what hijacked my world at night. To a place in the past we've been cast out of. Oh, now we're back in the fight. We're back on the train. Back on the chain gang. Circumstance beyond our control. The powers that be, they force us to live like we do. Bring me to my knees when I see what they've done to you. But I'll die as I stand here today, knowing that deep in my heart they'll fall to ruin one day. For for making us part.
So there you have it. And I mean, the beginning lyrics, the first verse I think is just great. I mean, it's, I found a picture of you. Oh, well, it hijacked my world at night.
Mm-hmm.
And where she's basically saying, it kept me awake at night. I couldn't fall asleep because I was thinking about you. Which is that's just a cool way of saying that, I think. Mm-hmm. And then to a place in the past we've been cast out of. Oh, now we're back in the fight. We're back on the chain gang. Kind of the it's always coming back to, look, time is going to move forward, and you're always going to, Monday morning is going to come around. When you're that age you mentioned earlier, she's in her 30s now.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you're starting to mature, you're starting to get old, you're starting to have a past that is gone, as an adult, looking back to your young days, whether that was, the days in London when we were, everything was still fresh and new and adventurous, or whatever, whoever it is, back when we were in college, back whatever was going on in the past. And here we are, and now we're back on the chain gang. I mean, and the ooh, ah, kind of referring to the old, that's the sound of the men working on the chain gang, kind of old rock and roll. Just a well conceived idea to couch this song about her late band member.
Yeah, and I think that there's a couple things that it draws up to as you listen to it. The idea that maybe now isn't as fun or enjoyable as you used to see life. If you're talking very fondly about the happiest days of your life with this particular person, and it's like nope, back on the chain gang. I can sit and think about you for a few minutes here, but then it's back on the chain gang. And things are a little harder. Things are a little bit more controlled in your life. Things are a little less happy than they were in the past. I mean, not a whole lot of positive spin, and enjoyment spin when you're saying that you're working on a chain gang to bring this forward. But it's a great and fun song. The combination of the way the vocals come together and the music. I can remember when this used to play on the radio, and let's turn this up just a little, and listen to the song, which I think is an effect of a lot of Pretender songs.
Well, when I was going to college in Minnesota, the last year I was there, which would have been the 1983-1984 school year, mm-hmm. and I was living with a dear friend of mine at the time, and we were young, 20, going on 21,
mm-hmm.
And outside of our apartment in Minneapolis, there was apparently a group of kids and some adults. This is obviously a group of kids from a daycare center somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 3 or 4 women who were supervising them, and they were walking. And in order to keep everybody in line, or to keep the kids from getting lost or whatever, the kids had some rope, like some line and little wrist things, so they were all kind of roped together so no one would get lost or go out into the street and get hit by a car or anything like that. And we're sitting in the apartment looking at it, and my friend looked out there and said, "Yeah, picture the last one in line with like black pants and a black coat and a mohawk, singing back on the chain gang." So I have fond memories of this song. Yep. As well, and just, I mean, on the more serious side, that bridge, the lyrics in the bridge of this song, that the powers that be that force us to live like we do bring me to my knees when I see what they've done to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll die as I stand here today, knowing that deep in my heart they'll fall to ruin one day for making us part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just a beautiful way of saying that, the powers that be are always gonna, they're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be there, but if I had my way, just for what they've done to us, they'd all go away.
Yeah, and it's,
Um,
she does a beautiful job with the vocals there too. The way it
yeah.
that she kind of draws out in just a beautiful voice that I actually don't have. But that for making us I just she it's just so nice, and that draws you kind of into another break there. Just really really well done.
Well, and because during the bridge, it's a little darker. I don't know whether they're playing a minor chord or whatever, but
Hmm.
whatever it is, it's just a little not quite as bright sounding. But then when she gets to that "for making us part,"
Yeah.
it switches back into the little more uplifting, fond. It's I'm happy to have a good memory than be mired in the past.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So, a very successful song commercially at the time, and a great addition to this album as well.
Hmm.
And moving on, the third track is called "Time the Avenger," and this, I mean, obviously, time the Avenger. I mean, the passage of time,
Yep.
growing older, and the lyrically, this is not a particularly explicit song, but I interpret it to basically be that with the passage of time comes change,
Hmm.
and there's maybe a suggestion that kind of the established middle class versus the youth or the younger generation at the time, that things were going to not necessarily stay as good for the established middle class and would get better
Hmm.
for the younger rock and rollers. But that's not that's just my own sort of sense of it. But it's a new wavy
Yeah.
new wavy song, and maybe before you weigh in, Mark.
Yeah. Let's hear some of it.
Why don't we just hear some of it? And this is from the middle of the song. So you get some of the basic riff of the song, and also a little bit of the instrumental sense of the song as well.
Hmm.
And we'll talk on the other side.
Nobody's perfect, not even a perfect gent. When your property took the A train, I wonder where your manners went. You were standing at the station. In your briefcase was your aftershave and underwear. Can you hear the whistle blow? Sounds like time the Avenger. Time, hear the bells chime. Over the harbor and the city. Time to kill another bottle of wine. To help paralyze that tiny little tick, 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 tick.
All right. Well, there you hear it. I mean, at the beginning of that clip, you can hear that dun 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 dun. I the new wavy is
Yeah.
the kind of the description that conjured in my mind. And it's got that sort of new wavy energy, that solid drum
Yep.
sound that we've talked about earlier, and just that metallic sheen on the guitars. They're definitely electric guitars, but we're not. There's no heavy distorted. It's more high energy, but it does have what I call a metallic sheen, that is new wavy.
And it's a great it's a great effect too. That din 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 din. Okay, that's like there's an urgency, and it almost sounds, it's the effect, but it almost sounds like the tempo is ticking up as it continues. It's like, din, din, it's just it's the effect, but like time is moving, and it's moving faster than it was just a little bit ago, and now it's moving faster than it's got a sense like things are speeding up. There's an absolute urgency to the sound. It's a great effect that adds a certain amount of tension to this song, along with just your rock and roll that's coming right in front of you.
Well, and I mentioned before the clip, that this song to me, was talking about that the passage of time brings
Sure.
change. But another aspect of the song, and arguably a more faithful interpretation of the lyrics, that time, kill another bottle of wine to
Yeah.
help paralyze that little tick, tick, tick.
Yeah.
It's just talking about, regardless of the passage of time, you've got the daily press of time.
Yeah.
And, the lyrics talk about, someone who's got a job and, has to take the train, and, your briefcase and your aftershave and your underwear, you can hear the whistle blow, time the Avenger.
Yeah.
So it's not so much talking about, arguably is so much change over time, but just this is how you've chosen to spend your time. And you need a bottle of wine just to put a stop to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
Or-
I see a lot in this song. We had a pretty lengthy conversation in a couple episodes a while ago about the album Dark Side of the Moon, which there's a big focus of that is just life as it's being lived by everybody drives you crazy. And, in fact, they specifically focus on the passage of time as a song there, and doing that. You feel a little of that here too, right? It's like, look, this is gonna provide you stress, and the way that a lot of people deal with that is to whip out some wine or some vodka or whatever your drink of choice or drug of choice is, because that's about the only way that you can numb that tick, 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 which is clearly a clock ticking seconds by, and it does not stop. And to try to nullify the effects of that, maybe we'll try a little booze, right? Which obviously is a fan favorite of many people, to ease that ticking.
And I guess there's enough energy, and it's not like a cynical mopey song. That energy suggests that that you're going to get through it. It's not so much that that the bottle of wine, and then earlier in the song, before the clip that we heard, they sings the same chorus with a time, one more vodka and lime. So I mean, there's two specific references to alcohol as a consolation of sorts, but it's not it's not an escapist song or alcohol is a crutch song. It's just sort of an acknowledgement of the way things are, and part of that maturing. And one of the reasons why I will take the position, if I was asked, well, is this, Learning to Crawl the better album from the Pretenders, or is their debut album the better album? And if I were asked that question, I would say this album. is the better album. One of the reasons being that it is just such an excellent example of a rock and roller, a genuine dyed in the wool rock and roller like Chrissie Hynde, I believe, certainly was, kind of aging gracefully without losing their spark and their rock and roll spirit. And talking about the passage of time in this way, I think she achieves that on this album as a whole and on this song as well.
Yeah, and I mean, just the title of this song, "Time the Avenger." I mean, it's time is the ultimate Avenger, and it comes through. And I think that this song is it's just not only it's interesting to to listen to in music. It's well put together and very well done. And I think that throughout this, that's been the case with a lot of these songs. I think it's important to point out, we talked about the importance of relationships and the team you come out with. I mean, this album was produced by Chris Thomas, this is a guy that worked with the Beatles. He worked with Pink Floyd. He worked with Roxy Music, Procol Harum, Paul McCartney, Elton John. This was not a slouch, and actually had been working with the Pretenders since their debut album. And we've talked about it a lot on this show. You've got a good songwriter, you've got a good musician who's got talent and drive. A good producer also helps to get those ideas into our ears, and I think was certainly successful here. And this song's just another example. It's got a great feel as you're listening to it. So,
I mean, continuing, I think this track is strong. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that Middle of the Road and Back on the Chain Gang are better songs overall, but that's relative. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a very solid, well written, straightforward, lyrically sophisticated song that maintains the standard that I think is on the whole side.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of the next song is a fun one, and it's called "Watching the Clothes," as in watching the clothes go round in the washing machine. Mm-hmm. And this is a very, in my opinion, very punkish song, and my understanding is that this song was written like before their debut album came out, so it's this song is writing from a young person's perspective, more so than the maturing rocker that we've referenced so far in our discussion. But it also kind of sums up what life is like for women who are in their 30s. Mm-hmm. And are in a certain lifestyle, maybe that isn't so bad, but also maybe that they'd prefer to be somewhere else. In any case, why don't we listen to the first minute or so of this? This song is pretty straightforward, and we can continue our discussion after.
Sounds good.
Time and time again, watching the clothes go round. Another week sees its end. Watching the clothes go round, watching the clothes go round, watching the clothes go round. Oh, I've been working hard, trying to make some money. Would you like sour cream on your potato, honey? I've been kissing ass, trying to keep it clean. Serving the middle class, yeah, it's a clean routine. Watching the clothes go round, watching the clothes go round, watching the clothes go round, watching the clothes go round.
All right, well, there you go. It's a woman who's home on Saturday night. Everyone's having fun. I'm down at the laundromat trying to get my washing done, watching the clothes go round. And I mean, she's wishing she were someplace else.
Well, and I would have to say, I mean, this album came out 1984. I was in Germany in the service at the time. I can remember actually buying this album. I was a fan of the certainly the first album and the other songs. I was excited about this album coming out. I can remember bringing this home and taking the cellophane, plastic off of it and playing it and hearing this. And I mean, I was not a young girl in her 30s at the time, but, anybody that doesn't get PTSD from this song never spent a lot of time having to be in a laundromat. And I mean, when I divide my life in the service up, there are big slices of the pie. One of them would be when we were on military operations in the field. One of them would be when, as part of my job, I had to travel a lot internationally in Europe, and I would do that. One of those slices was the time that I had to spend at the fucking laundromat, right? We did not have a washer. 2 young kids. Once a week, I would go to the laundromat. I would take 9 loads of laundry with me in the back. 9 laundry baskets in the back seat of my car. Sometimes I'd have one of the kids with me, and I would go into this laundromat in Benjamin Franklin Village in Mannheim, Germany, at the base there. It was always packed. And it was big. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there must have been 100 washing machines and 100 dryers. But there was times I'd go in there was not a single washer that was open. And I had these 9 loads of laundry that had to get done. And I was there, until it got done. And playing through the loudspeaker was always Casey Kasem's Top 40. Sunday, that's when they played that, where I was at. Listened to a lot of music, sitting watching the clothes go around, right, in the dryer, and then as they'd get done, I mean, I would be there for hours, right, doing this thing. So I look at this as much more than this is just a quick note about I'm getting older and I've got more responsibility and people are having fun and I'm gonna no, this is serious to me, right? This particular song I can relate to things that were happening. It brings me back to not the most enjoyable times, because nobody is happy in a laundromat. It's 2 places nobody's happy: a laundromat or when you're in line to get your rental car. 2 places nobody smiles in those things. So anyway, a little side note there, but I enjoy this song because I can relate.
Well, and my wife and I, after we were married, when we were, living here in town, but before we purchased our home, that was about a year. And I'm working as a lawyer. Beth is working as a school teacher, so we did not have children at that time. So we're talking about double income, no kids. But the place we were living in at the time was a rental place. Didn't have a washer and dryer either, and it was a flat. It wasn't a apartment building, so there was no laundry room, and so we had we or I or she would have to throw and we didn't have 9 loads because we were just the 2 of us, but and you're there, and they didn't, you can't drink beer in the laundromat, and so a public laundromat, it's frowned upon. So I didn't do it. But what else are you going to do but watch the clothes go around?
That's a laundromat, the Avenger, is what that is.
But I mean, okay. But listen, and another very similar to what you said is the second verse. I've been working hard trying to make some money.
Yeah.
Would you like sour cream on your potato, honey? I've been kissing ass trying to keep it clean, serving the middle class. Yeah, it's a clean routine. So in addition to having to, just to do her own laundry instead of being out having a good time on Saturday night, otherwise she's working as a waitress in some restaurant with probably with guys pinching her ass and putting up with that kind of nonsense. And for anyone who's never had to work serving people in a restaurant or a bar, now I have. I mean, when for a few years in the mid '80s, I worked full time as a bartender in the city of Milwaukee. And while my experience doing that as a male bartender is different than the kind of experiences that a woman working as a waitress, as a server in a restaurant, going around table to table, schmoozing for tips and whatnot, would have to put up with. But you understand that, I've been working hard trying to make some money, hustling for my tips. And if anyone's ever had to do that in their life, they understand what Chrissie is singing about in this song.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's on first glance, it's really not a very serious or deep song on first glance, but it's fun. It's a little ruckus as you're going through it. And, again, especially when you can look back on those times as opposed to having to be doing it, it's a relatable feeling what she's getting at here.
It's a fun song. I mean, it's really, and while it goes to a serious thing, look, this is life. You gotta do your laundry. You gotta work to generate money. You got to do what you got to do to move forward, and it's not all fun and games, but you can still have fun in life. This is kind of a raucous, joyous punk rocker almost. The guitar at the end and stuff. They're rocking out. Yep. And so it does. It's not as artful. Or just the subject that she's getting at isn't as profound as the getting to a mature point in your relatively young adult life, getting into your early 30s and stuff like that. She was like 33 when this album, some of these songs were written. But I don't know. I think it's fun. If you can't tap your foot and have at least a little bit of a smile on your face, listen to this song, you've got to lighten up.
Exactly.
Get with the program. Join the fun.
Life's too short.
Yeah. All right. Which brings us to track number 5, which is the final song on side 1 of Learning to Crawl. And it's a good song. Very uplifting song, in my opinion, and it is called "Show Me." And I don't want to necessarily throw out a spoiler here, but this is a basically a non-sentimental, it's less sentimental and not maudlin version of the Foreigner song "I Want to Know What Love Is." That's really what this song is. And I believe that song, which many of our listeners will be familiar with, is just a very maudlin, overly sentimental ballad that, aside from, I mentioned the Skyline Bar in Appleton that played MTV videos and people dance. Well, they always played that as a slow song. I Want to Know What Love Is. And for those like myself that didn't have a steady girlfriend at the time, I wanted to know. But no one wanted to show me.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I rarely danced to that song slow because the chicks didn't want to dance with me. But
I digress. Yeah.
But be that as it may, this song is just a more inspirational articulation of the same sentiment.
Yeah,
really.
I think it's a little different sentiment because I believe she's talking to a newborn baby. That welcome to the human race. And then she talks about things like it ain't necessarily so great here with the wars and disease and that type of thing. And more of look at this is someone who this is a baby that I have here that may be able to show me some love. I've had a hard time getting it from anybody else, or at least real true love, and someone that is this young and innocent might actually know, right? How to love and that type of thing. She around the time that she wrote that, she had a child with Ray Davies. So she certainly had the experience of bringing a young child and that feeling of having a brand new baby and that type of thing. So I see a lot of that in this song.
Well, and similar to what I said about a previous song that we've talked about, what you're describing, if you actually take a close look at the lyrics, certainly fits in.
Sure.
Certainly fits in with that interpretation, probably more so than just meeting you meet someone and they're positive in attitude. They're not cynical. They're not hung up on the past. They always see a half full glass in every situation. And meeting someone like that can sort of be, here is someone that can show me the meaning of the word love. There is an autobiography of Chrissie Hynde called "My Life as a Pretender," and it's well worth reading. And I don't remember that it got into that much detail on a song by song basis for the individual albums or anything like that. But whether it does or it doesn't matter, because I would encourage anyone to read that book. But
sure,
the point I was building up to was that what you say, especially in the context of the fact that she'd had a child with Ray Davies, it makes a lot of sense. And as you and I both have children, and so one of the things I noticed in my work, as a criminal defense attorney and then ultimately as a prosecutor and then a judge, was that there are people who just have trouble in their lives. They make stupid decisions, they do bad things, and sometimes becoming a parent for the first time, not all the time, not even necessarily most of the time, but a lot of the time, it can provoke a change in someone's view of themselves and of the world, and really can provide them, just the unconditional love of a child can make them think, or it can show them the meaning of the word.
Yeah. Yep.
It can. So I would give you high marks on your interpretation there.
So are we going to hear some of it?
Let's. We can hear about. Let's listen to about the first minute, and there's also a really, in my opinion, a really nice bridge in this song that has just a wonderful feel to it, and then we can continue our discussion after.
Okay.
Show me the meaning of the word. Show me the meaning of the word. 'Cause I've heard so much about it. 'cause I've heard so much about it. I don't wanna live without it. I don't wanna live without it. Oh, I want love. I want love. I want love.
All right. So there, you have two parts of the song. You have the beginning and the just with the basic, the meat and potatoes of the song. Show me the meaning of the word. In the first clip there, pretty straightforward. But then in the second part of the clip, you heard, the what I call the bridge of the song.
Mm-hmm.
You just get this rhythm, and it's like you can picture Chrissie Hynde like riding on a horse through the or through a field with wind blowing in her hair, or kind of driving down an easy curving road in a convertible with the wind in your hair. It's just it's a sort of a being set free and sort of awash in the good things of being a person alive walking the face of this planet. It just has a nice feel.
Yeah,
that sort of what the feeling that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And it's what really adds to that, which I 100% agree with, is she's got a beautiful voice. It's a unique, it's her as you listen to it. It's got a depth to it that is unique to her singing, but it's a beautiful voice to listen to. And even on the songs when she's driving hard, you could tell she's angry or whatever. The voice is just an important part of the song. And obviously, in a much gentler type song like this, it just comes. That beauty of that voice really comes out. It's smooth and soothing, and this is very different from the other songs, but maybe just a little chance to relax. Before the end of the song, after a number of pretty driving tunes, is a good way to go.
I mean, you have to be to be closed-minded to some extent, to not derive just a positive, relatively uplifting feel from this song.
Yeah.
It just has that airy. It's light. It lifts you, as opposed to weigh you down. It's and because I agree with you, it is different. It's fresh. It's just a smiley, sunny, bright, light, uplifting.
Yeah.
Butterflies and birds, not not
hornets.
Dogs, not dogs and yellow jackets and wildcats, and I think really does a nice job of bringing this side down for a landing.
I'd agree, especially you take a look at all those songs. I mean, the two very strong, just great songs, to start the album out, just kind of an interesting twist, same kind of tempo and thing with Time the Avenger, still a very clear Pretender song, but just a little bit of a change of pace. We kind of get something a little offbeat with watching the close, and then to end with this again, to bring it in for a landing. I mean, just a great side of music off of a great album.
Yeah. And this is one of those albums that you're going to occasionally see in the 500 greatest albums of all time, and 1,000 recordings to listen to before you die, those kind of things. this is the sort of album that pops up on those kind of lists, and in my opinion, that is totally deserved. In my opinion, this album is the high point of the Pretenders' output, and certainly the best songwriting that Chrissie Hynde ever did, in my opinion. And the whole album is well worth anyone's time, and in particular, side one.
Side one. Well, great side, great album, and great conversation, Mike.
All right, Mark. We will talk to you next time.